Greetings, everyone. Well, my name is Garrett Houndstein, and I am very excited for this conversation. Today, we are joined by two candidates rather, for Hart District School Board. We have James Webb, who is going to be representing Area 4, and Alyssa Williams, who is representing Area 1. Before we get into that, first of all, welcome. How are you guys doing?
Doing
Good,
well, thank
thank you.
Excellent. Just since the area delineations within the valley are a little bit confusing, can you guys both share? We'll start with you, Alyssa. Can you just sort of tell us what Area 1 is, and then James, where is Area 4?
Yeah, of course. So Area 1 encompasses all of Castaic, all of Valverde, Tesoro, West Hills, and basically everything northwest of McBean. So a lot of Valencia as well.
Great.
And Area 4 begins at the Golden Valley Connector on the east side as it goes up into Plum Canyon, and then as it goes over into Whites Canyon, the kind of the northwest side of Plum Canyon. Olive Canyon country out towards Sand Canyon, and even up the 14 almost to the border with Agua Dulce.
Okay, great. So that clears things up. If anybody has any questions beyond that, there is a map on, I believe, on the Hart School Board website. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. So the way we've done this is we've had some folks write in, and we are a little limited on time here. Just we want to keep this to the sort of salient points that I think folks are wondering about. So we had some folks write in, and I've pulled it's sort of 4 basic questions, but they each have sort of a 2 or 3 sort of sub questions to them. So we'll start with you, Alyssa, and sort of the elephant in the room right now, and this comes to us from Madeline, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's Los Angeles County has issued the directive that schools should continue distance learning for the time being. So that said, should the Hart District be acting in accordance with these directives? And then once in-person learning is okayed by the county, what form do you see that taking? And then how fast should we jump into that?
All very good questions, Garrett. Yes. Basically, yes, we should be in accordance with the county. I think it is very important that we listen to science and we listen to the facts, and we not try to change or overrun the decisions and rush back into a situation that would not be safe for everybody. And by everybody, I mean the students, the teachers, the faculty, all of their families, and anybody they possibly come in contact with, because that's really who you're affecting. It's not just the student and the teacher. So we should definitely act in accordance with LA County rules. As far as what form it should take when we go back, I am really liking the notion of the hybrids or the cohorts, because it lessens the amount of students on campus, which I think is going to be very important. We've seen in other places where things just open up and everybody goes, and now you have to shut things down again. And so you don't want, 30 plus kids in a classroom with no elbow room. So I'm definitely a fan of the cohorts. That being said, I don't feel that it should be mandated, which at this time it's not. As a parent myself to a Hart District student, I know that we were recently sent an email that will give us a choice whether we choose to do a cohort or continue with distance learning, or even do like an independent study. So I'm in complete agreement with those options, because for every family, it's going to look different. And the last part, how quickly should we go back? That is a great question. So I know that there are many people who are very anxious to get back to school, as well as my son. He is very anxious to get back to school. But I really feel that when we get the okay to open, we need to take the time, and we need to go through all of the schools, all of the situations, make sure that we can do it safely, make sure we can provide enough space for each student, make sure that we can provide enough PPE for every student, for every teacher, and for every staff member. And when I say provide PPE for students, I don't mean that it's the school's responsibility to provide masks, but they should definitely have some extras on hand, because there will be days where a student forgets his mask or her mask. So we need to be able to say, here, take this for the day, as opposed to go home. I think once that we can really go through every school and assure that we have all the things that we need, what is the bathroom schedule going to look like? Because there will need to be a schedule. What is hand sanitizer going to look like? Because we will need hand sanitizer stations. What is passing through classes going to look like? Because we will need organization. It's not just going to be a free-for-all. So I think that we need to take the time necessary to make sure that all of these things on campuses are in place to ensure the success of everybody.
Great. James, do you have anything you'd like to speak about or add on that topic?
Yes, thank you, Garrett. And Madeline, thank you so much for your question. And I do feel that it is so important that we listen to the state, we listen to the county, we, as Alyssa said, are informed by science with our decisions, not by politics, not by what the current understanding of a few would mandate for our students. I too am the father of a Hart District son student, and believe me, I would like him to be back in class. However, I do want him to be safe, because I think that the school board has a moral responsibility and a legal responsibility to ensure that all students are safe, all families are safe, as well as all staff members. So what I see it looking like is, I do too like the cohort model, but I have seen some children be quite successful with some distance learning. Again, one of my children does very well with distance learning. He is the type where you give him the assignment, he'll do it, and he's very comfortable with that. So I do like the idea of choice. But there are, hybrid models that could work very well. However, I think it needs to be with reduction in the number of students who are on campus, as well as teachers. And it needs to be done in a way that it will still, provide the quality instruction that families come to expect in the Hart District. And in terms of a timeline, I really see there needing to be some time for the staff members to really understand what distance learning or hybrid learning can do to augment the standards being taught. So I would like to see some days of professional learning for the teachers, time for them to plan, time for them to organize classrooms, and also, as Alyssa said, there's going to have to be pathways through hallways or through open areas, because we're talking about teenagers here, and they, a lot of times move en masse, and we need to make sure that is restructured so that they are keeping themselves safe, as well as the staff members. And so I do think that there needs to be a lot of direction provided by the district in terms of those professional development to help make sure that everyone is safe and still receives the quality instruction that they've come to expect with the Hart District.
Perfect. Yeah, this is obvious. I should have mentioned this, I guess, at the beginning. I have my two stepdaughters are in the Hart District as well. And yeah, there's upsides and downsides to all of this. It's no easy answer to any of this. So we'll move on to our second question. James, we'll start with you on this one. This one comes to us from Wendy. We live in a time where politics are a potentially divisive issue. Understanding that every teacher, student, and indeed every board member has their own set of political beliefs. That said, what place do you see political ideologies having in our schools, and how would your own political beliefs impact the work you would do as part of the school board?
Well, Wendy, thank you so much for your question. And to go with the first part, as a teacher for over 25 years, it was paramount that my own political ideology never made its way into the classroom. A school should be a place where free thinking is encouraged and is valued. And when an adult, particularly a teacher, starts to espouse his or her own political ideologies, it really is unfair to the children who are still crafting their own understanding and really determining who they are in their development as an adolescent, for them to be able to see that it is a bias-free and healthy and safe classroom environment. So politics do have no place in a school setting. With that, regardless of my own personal ideology and political belief systems, when I go into if I am elected and I walk into that school board meeting or even come onto a Zoom meeting, my political beliefs are checked either in the waiting room of Zoom or at the door of the school board room, because it has no place to make my decisions or represent the community that elected me to be on the school board in terms of the way that we will work with our children and our families and the community, because that's who I owe my allegiance to. It is to the students, it is to the staff members, the families, and the community. And so my understanding of what I believe is irrelevant, because I make decisions for the district, not for me and not for any political understanding that I have personally.
Great.
Yeah.
Alyssa?
Great. Yeah. So what was the first half was how, read that again for me, Garrett?
What place, given that every human has their own political ideologies, what place do you see that existing within our schools, and how would your own beliefs impact your work on as part of the school board?
So I absolutely agree with James for this. Politics has no place in education, especially as somebody who would be on the board. You know, if I should get elected, the direction that would guide me, the thing that would guide me is not a political agenda. Kids are not political. Kids don't come in, you know, one side or the other. They're not colors, you know, kids are kids, and they all should receive the same education, the same opportunities, and be looked at as children. And the thing that guides me is what is best for those children, what is best for the teachers, and what is best for the people in the schools on the front lines, taking care of educating our children. And politics has no place in that at all. So like James, you check your own beliefs at the door. You go to work every day. You don't go to work and go, hey, this is my deal. Let's see who I can turn. You know, that's not a part of your work life. That might be a part of your home life or whatever else you're doing, but it's not a part of your work life. And being a member of a school board is a job. You know, it's a job, and it's a job that requires impartiality and looking at things from the outside and doing what is right for the majority and for all without outside influences coming into play in your decisions.
Okay, great. Again, another complex issue. So we get into our third question here, and Alyssa, we'll start with you on this one. It comes to us from Stephen. Being able to identify and address student emotional and mental health issues has become one of the most important things that teachers and administrators deal with on a daily basis. So, there's sort of a couple questions tied into this. First of all, what resources would you advocate for to better aid students who are seeking help? And then conversely, how do you create an environment where students can bring attention to something they feel may be off, quote unquote, perhaps in another student without fear of reprisal, sort of a see something, say something mentality? And then once you've answered that in regards to the student population, an often ignored population in schools insofar as mental health is concerned is teachers. They have one of the most stressful and difficult jobs on the planet. What resources do you think should be made available, if any, to them at the school level?
Wow. Okay. So that's a mouthful. That's an essay.
I can repeat if you need me to.
Okay, so the first part is identifying mental health issues in the children and resources to better aid. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if I were a student that I felt, something seemed off for me, perhaps I didn't want to go to my parents or anything with it. How does the school, have a resource for something like that?
Got it. So I think that's an excellent question. And I think that it is a lot more important than people actually would give credence to it, because we hear a lot like, hey, there are counselors on campus, utilize them, or go speak to the campus counselor, the campus psychologist, or whatever it is. There are a couple issues. One is that I don't think that all of the students are aware of the resources on campus. I know that this past year, my son had come to me, we're talking about something one day, and he's like, oh, we have this at our school? We have that at our school? And he had no idea. Now, can I chalk it up to him being 15 and not listening to announcements and advisory? Maybe, but it needs to be continually presented that, so that the kids can hear it and know it's there. Also, there needs to be, like, I know when I was growing up, if I wanted to talk to somebody, and many times it was not my parents, I was always worried about getting in trouble, right? Will I get in trouble if I say this? Will I get in trouble if I tell an adult this? So there needs to be more than the assurance of confidentiality, and now barring anything that reveals there may be harm involved or whatever, but there needs to be even possibly an anonymous way to do that, whether it's counselor by text or some other sort of mechanism, because not all kids, especially teenagers, want to go spill their guts or want to go tell somebody they don't feel as happy as they may look. And they need resources to allow them to do that safely and anonymously at times. And I think that would go a long way in getting more kids willing to talk about, any issues that they may be having. Okay, and then go ahead.
Yeah, so then, and if I were another student then, and I, this isn't, we'll assume good intentions here as opposed to any kind of bullying or anything, but if a friend of mine I feel is that something may be going on, perhaps a forum for that. Do you want to share on that?
I actually think that, again, anonymously being able to report via text, whether there's just one text that goes to the counselor or whatever, because there's such a stigma with kids who are thought to be like tattletales. Even just being seen in the office can bring on a world of rumors and all of that. Ooh, what were you doing in there? I know. And so I think that our students may even be reluctant to go into the office to say something, even if it's not to talk about themselves. Now, granted, some students would be totally fine with that. They're not interested in what other people say about them, and more power to them. But I really feel that there needs to be some anonymous way to reporting. And even if it's just like, hey, I'm worried about so-and-so, or so-and-so seems off his game, just, so then they can do the right thing. They can feel good about doing the right thing. And they can also avoid any sort of backlash, teasing, bullying, just knowing your friends are going to give you a hard time will stop a kid from doing the right thing at times. Mm-hmm. And that's not what we want. We want them to feel completely at ease, being able to help their friends and still save face, for a better word.
And then lastly, how about the teachers?
The teachers absolutely need some resources. And, I think we tend to forget that. We tend to focus on the students, where obviously we need to put a lot of focus on our students, but our teachers are the ones behind the scenes. I am sure now, even it's almost 8 o'clock at night, they are at home working. And they are also at home dealing with their family and maybe their kids who are slightly panicked about what's going on and anxious about all of that, and their spouses. And we need to provide some sort of resource for our teachers as well as our students. And I don't know exactly what that would look like. I don't know, like during the day, not convenient for them to go to a counselor during the day, but we need to provide a resource maybe outside of school hours or off campus at some point where they can reach out, you know, not to say they couldn't do it on their own, they could, but I feel that as a district, as people who guide the district, the board, we need to step up and we need to help our teachers help themselves more than we ever have. It's more than long hours right now. It's more than hard work. It's more than worrying about student A or student B. Our teachers are also suffering, and they will never come out and say that in a class or anything, because they are the ones that our students are looking to. But healthy teachers teach great classes and can help our students get through all of the hard times that they are all going through as well. So we absolutely need to help them.
Yeah. Happier teachers, happier students.
Yeah.
James, I'll throw it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Garrett. And Stephen, thank you for the question. I feel that social emotional well-being is so much a part of all aspects of school. In my work with the state of California with the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, one of the things that I really point out to teacher candidates or to preliminary programs is that 67% of the standards, either for the teaching performance expectations or the California standards for the teaching profession, talk about healthy and safe environments for learning. And if we think about our favorite classes, we may not be able to recall assignments that we did or, you know, maybe things that we read, but we can remember how the teacher made us feel. We can remember how the environment was, and that's what we latch on to. So to answer the first question, I think that we do have some great resources already with the wellness centers. I think it's a good start. I think that we need to expand the services that they offer. As Alyssa said, a lot of our students do not know that they exist, what resources are made available to them. I think we need to look at, you know, areas what teenagers are going through, possibly the beginnings of substance abuse issues, you know, relational abuse, whether it's by a boyfriend or even girlfriend, as the case may be, gender identity issues that students may be having. And I think that we really need to put it into a way where it's modeling that they are in a safe and welcoming place. Because as Alyssa said, many times students don't know what is the safe place for them to go. For some, it may be a teacher, and that is fantastic. And if they have that resource, we definitely want to encourage that. But I think students could play a role in that as well, and bringing together some student leaders on campus to possibly give them those opportunities to let them know what's available. In terms of the second question with regard to providing safe places or what's going on, again, I think a student advocacy group is one to be looked at. Alyssa and I were very fortunate to listen to students in various areas. And one of the projects that a student was leading at West Ranch was all about you know, being able to, if they do something that hurts another student, possibly bullying or maybe saying something that's inappropriate, that they work their way back in rather than just be suspended or put into detention, that it's a type of restorative justice. How do we say, okay, you did something that was hurtful, but what can we do to come together and build community and learn from that? I think that too many times in schools, it's act, discipline, action, consequence. And life doesn't always work like that. We've all been in situations where someone gives us the opportunity to prove ourselves. We get a second chance. And our children need that second chance because this is when they're learning. Biology says so in terms of their brain development and also in terms of their emotional development. And then that leads me into the third part of the question, which is about teaching. My husband is a teacher. I was a teacher. When I look at what he's working on, I know that he needs resources and supports. When we talk about going back to school, we can't just put him back in the classroom and say, okay, go teach. We need to provide a lot of resources because many people, students, families even, and the teachers are going to be experience elements of post-traumatic stress disorder. We have to give them resources, whether it's giving them mandated 30 minutes of time where they just disengage, they find a way to, provide resources for meditation or other types of things, or resources that are maybe outside the district that could help them and really focus on their mental well-being and health. Because as we've said, if the classroom is safe, if the classroom is fair and equitable, and the teacher feels safe, it will be a healthy environment in which all students can learn.
Can I just add on to that quickly? And everything you just said, James, everything. And going on that as well, when our teachers get back in the classroom, it's not like, oh, all this stuff happened and their trauma happened and now the trauma's over and let's heal. They're going back into the classroom scared, and it's ongoing trauma for them, and they need ongoing resources for them.
Right, because when they go back to their families, and there's a whole host of other areas that they have to think about. And I think, in everything that we're looking at, our North Star here is making sure everyone is safe. And that's what we really have to focus upon. And some studies have shown that, the stress and the aftermath may live on 2 to 3 years after the pandemic has come to a sense of, I don't want to say closure, because we know that there still will be cases, but where it's more comfortable to be more where we were post-COVID as opposed to, pre-COVID as opposed to post-COVID.
Yeah. All right. I think we're on to our last question here. And James, we're going to start with you on this one. This one comes from Carl. With the understanding that the Hart District, and indeed all districts, don't have infinite time, money, or staff resources, how do you empower equity for students while not taking away from other existing programs in the district? And maybe you can actually start with when we talk about equity within a school or within a school system, what does that look like to you, and then how does it get facilitated without not at the expense of other existing programs?
Right. Well, Carl, thank you for the question. And as many people know, that's been what I've been running on, empowering equity for all students. But I think that, it does present an issue, and we're going to see this again for several years as we look at the financial impact to our schools and to our budgets with regard to what the state has, possibly even at the federal level as well. But one of the things that we have to understand is we have to start with our programs that are state and or federally funded, such as our students with disabilities, those with an IEP, and then also our English language learners, students who fall under Title I. These students who are deserving of quality programs to help bridge some gaps that they may need to help them be successful in the classroom. And then to that end, we also have to take a look at where are we leveraging our resources for students that are contained within the LCAP, foster youth, homeless youth, what has traditionally been underserved students. And so I think the way that we really look at how we can leverage those resources and make sure that they are equitably distributed is it's important for school board members to be out in the schools. What's there? What do teachers have? What do students have? Even with Zoom does not preclude us from being able to go in and observe. And I think an informed board member is able to see what's in the classroom and what a school may need, and then have healthy dialogue with administrators, both at the school and at the district level, to ask, help me understand this. What are we doing here? Does everyone have what they need to have that success? And then what we do in turn is that once we make sure that those resources are indeed we have certain ones that are earmarked because of federal and state guidelines, but we also have to think about how are we utilizing our resources, not just money, but personnel, parent volunteers, support. How do we leverage all of those to see that there is a successful educational program in every one of our schools? Because it's important, if Alyssa and I do get elected, we don't represent just our area, we represent all of the schools and all of the Hart district community. And so we have to work together to ensure that it isn't a West Ranch versus Canyon situation. It is a Hart district situation that we have to address.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Alyssa, do you want to share on that?
Yeah, and that's always the fight, right? How do we get equitable resources, equitable time, equitable everything across the board for all the students that so desperately need it and deserve it? And they all deserve it. They all deserve an excellent education. They all deserve our 100% support, resources, everything we can give them, all of them. I think also a key would be, as well as everything that James has stated, is looking at the budget in the different areas and seeing, because always in the budget, there's areas that are very strapped and areas that are maybe not using quite all of the resources that are allotted, whether that comes from directly on campus or maintenance of things or what have you. Can we look at the budget, see where the budget's not being used 100% and reallocate in some places to help the money stretch further, whether it's from school A to school B, because like James said, we're a district. We're not one school against the other. We need to work together. So that's one way that we can, or one area that we can start, by really going over these things, because, is A, B, and C really all necessary for all, really necessary for all schools? Are these things wants or needs? And unfortunately, schools are never funded to the amount we would truly need them funded. But unfortunately, the budget is getting pulled tighter, and we really have to look at wants versus needs. And equitable education is a need. It is not a want. Oh, I'd love to have that, but oops, sorry, can't do it. No, it is a need. We need to educate our children across the board 100% to the best of our ability for all of them. And, while James mentioned all of these different groups, I'm also going to add on racial equity to that, because for me, that is a big deal. And we need to see some changes in our curriculum. And again, it's going to come to where the fund's coming from, because it may require new not textbooks, but literature for our children to read. It may require thinking outside the box on, how do we get funding for this, or how do we teach this subject, or how do we add this lesson in? And I think that's part of going out and seeing what the teachers have and being on campus, which is an idea I'm so excited about, to go out there and do that. I mean, I'm really thrilled to hopefully have that opportunity. It's also being able to come to the table and go, look, we know that it's always worked to teach literature this way, and so why would we change it? Well, here's why we will change it, because we need it to be more equitable. Now, what can we do that's not a standard answer to get the outcome that we need? And we have to be willing to jiggle things around and to think outside the box and get creative in gathering our resources to give to all children across the board. It's imperative.
Absolutely. Well, that brings us home. Is there anything else in the closing minutes here you guys wanted to touch on, or anything you felt like we missed in the questioning, given that we don't have an infinite amount of time?
James?
Well, I would just want people to know, those of you who have voted, thank you so much for exercising your right to vote and getting out there and, voting early. For those of you who are still trying to make your decision, I want you to know that if I'm elected, reminder that 75% of my household is involved in education. My husband's a teacher. 2 of my children are in school. So decisions that I make will be informed by how it impacts staff and also how it impacts children and families, because I, as a dad, have a vested interest, of course, in my children's education. And so every decision that I make will be guided by those understandings. And I would never make any type of decision that would have a detrimental effect on those groups of important stakeholders that come to the table when we think about the role of the school board. In addition, I want to see us building more partnerships so that we can come together and have healthy dialogue. Sometimes we may not all agree, but I think if we give people a place at the table, they understand that they are recognized and that they are valued and that they are respected in the decision-making process. So again, if you've not voted and you are trying to make a decision, I hope that this has helped you. Please go to my website, www.webforhartboard.com, to get more information. And there's also an email link if you would like to send me an email, and I would welcome the chance to show you that I would represent you on the Hart District School Board.
Excellent. And
Excellent.
Alyssa, do you want to let folks know where they can, excuse me, where they can find out more information about you and how they can contact you as well?
Absolutely. Thank you. And I agree with James. Thank you for voting if you have already voted. That is the most important thing. Whether you have chosen me on your ballot or not, the vote itself is paramount this year. So thank you. I am also a teacher. I currently teach ESL online. So I come from an educator's background as well. I also have a son in the district, as I mentioned. So I'm 100% vested. I'm happy to answer questions. I am happy to chat with you. You can reach me via my website at AlyssaHart.com, and I will gladly answer any questions, chat, talk, whatever. I'm here to be of service. So please use me to be of service. And thank you guys for tuning in today, and have a wonderful evening.
Excellent. You guys, thank you so much for taking the time answering some of these questions. I know it's been very helpful. Given that school board is a nonpartisan position, oftentimes for folks who sort of vote down the party line, it's difficult to know where people stand, and so I think this has been very helpful. Again, we've had James Webb here, who's Hart School Board candidate in Area 4, and Alyssa Williams is Area 1. And they give you their web addresses, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to them. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Garrett.